Hey guys, welcome back to Tea with Bor. My name is Bor and today we're brewing matcha tea. In this episode I'll briefly explain what is matcha tea, then I'll show you how to brew it, and then finally we'll do a taste test. Let's get right into it. To begin with, matcha is actually an ancient way of brewing tea. It was introduced in China over 2,000 years ago, but now it's most common in the Japanese tea culture. As you might be able to tell, matcha is quite different over the regular loose leaf tea, but to make a long story short, it's actually made from the same leaves, it's just that they've been ground stone into this beautiful green powder called matcha. I'll make a separate video explaining how matcha tea is actually produced, but in this video, I'll just focus on how to brew it. Alright, to make matcha, you're gonna need 4 pretty basic items. The first, of course, is your matcha powder. When looking for a good quality matcha powder, you want it to have a strong, vibrant green color. If it's a little bit more dull or on that yellow side, stay away from it. Next, we have a spoon. This spoon right here is a beautiful bamboo spoon called a chashaku. Your spoon doesn't have to be bamboo, but what's important is that it's not made out of metal, because metal actually oxidizes your matcha, ruining it quicker. To give you a volume reference, 1 chashaku is about a half teaspoon. Alright, next we have our chawan. A chawan is a beautiful ceramic bowl, handmade, and it has a flat bottom surface. Now, to keep it real with you guys, you can actually use a regular bowl, but this is the traditional way. And finally, we have our chasen. Chasen is an amazing bamboo whisk made out of a single piece of bamboo. If you don't have a chasen, and people will get mad at me for saying this, but you can actually use one of those electrical milk frothers, they work just as well. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys how to make usucha. Usucha is the most common way of making matcha, but there's also another version called koicha. To give you a coffee analogy, koicha is like the espresso of matcha. So the first thing we're going to do is warm up our chawan as well as our chasen. We're going to do this by taking about 70-degree water, pouring a little bit in, and then letting our chasen sit inside like that. After about a minute, we can remove our chasen and discard our hot water. Okay, before putting the matcha in, we do have to dry the bowl thoroughly. So the reason why I warmed it up is because matcha actually has to cook for a little bit. So make sure your bowl is very dry and warm, and then we can add 2 chashakus of matcha. I just thought I should mention that a lot of people like to use a sieve in order to remove any clumps of matcha, but I find that I can whisk away any clumps, so I don't use one. Alright, after about a minute and a half, we can add our hot water. When brewing matcha, you want to keep the water temperature below 80 degrees. I like to brew my usucha somewhere around from 70 to 75 degrees. So, first we're going to add a small amount of water, about 15 milliliters. And don't worry about being super precise, but just know that you first put a little bit and then whisk that up nicely. The first whisking, you don't want to be violent, just kind of get in there and get a nice thick powder and try to remove all those clumps. Okay, once that's done, we can add the rest of our water. So, pour that in, and again, not too much, about another 15 to 30 milliliters, and now we can whisk to get that nice froth. So, take our whisk, and you want to be going in a zigzag W motion, so make sure you get all the sides. So, let me show you. So you're going to want to be doing this for about a minute and a half. It does start to hurt, but it's worth the pain. Okay, I'm by no means an expert, but after a nice whisking, you have a thin, light green froth like that. Once that's done, you are ready to try your matcha. Okay, we are finally ready to try our matcha. Before we taste it, we just want to give it a smell. A nice, smooth, green, earthy smell. Now let's try it. Yeah, delicious. It starts off with this strong, a little bit aggressive spinach flavor, which sounds bad, but it's very nice. And then it fades into this smooth, creamy, slightly sweet taste. So it's very, very nice. The froth adds this beautiful texture, so make sure you get that nice froth. But yeah, very powerful tea that just fades into this nice lingering sweetness, but I'm really, really happy with it. Yeah, and matcha is known actually to have the strongest amount of caffeine and biggest boost because you're actually consuming the leaf itself. In most teas, you're really just straining the tea, but here, there's actually grinded leaves inside your tea, so it gives you that strongest boost, and it's pretty comparable to coffee. What I like about matcha over coffee is that it also has theanine, and theanine acts a little bit kind of the opposite of caffeine. What it does, it calms you down rather than boost you up. So the combination of caffeine and theanine gets you this nice, like, calm, meditative but focused state. So very, very beautiful drink. Yeah, and if you wait a bit, some of that powder will start to sit to the bottom. So the last few sips are usually quite thick, which is kind of nice. But yeah, that's about it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. This is obviously used to whisk our bamboo.